Resident Evil Village is finally here after a long wait, speculation, and hype. The latest entry in Resident Evil came loaded and ready to change things up, and that they definitely did. We've seen a lot of promotional material regarding Resident Evil Village from the moment it was announced up until it was released. But before we start to get into the real review, we want to let you know something. Nothing is what it seems to be. A great marketing trick pulled by Capcom where they managed to misdirect the audience a lot. But don't worry, everything you liked is there and more. But this isn't the first time in recent years that challenged what a series used to be about. Resident Evil has been reinventing itself for some years now. But what are we talking about here exactly? Resident Evil: The Next Step Forward. Just by a quick glance, it'll take you no time to realize how different Resident Evil Village is compared to the classic games in the series. Put it side by side by one of the most popular titles in the series, Resident Evil 4, the difference will have you even doubt they are from the same series. It is undeniably that Resident Evil is a saga that's been reinventing itself and surprising the fans along the way, even making tons of new fans thanks to how much the series has advanced. Even with the recent remakes of Resident Evil 2 and 3, we've seen games with incredible visuals and graphics. The gameplay and extreme environments will give you some of the best experiences you can have on PC gaming, but the Resident Evil series has never been known for staying stationary in one place. Some years ago, Resident Evil 7 Biohazard revolutionized survival horror. The new setting, the new protagonist, and even the new use of the camera footage, slash, the POV, third person to first person. Everything new for the series, and they nailed it. Resident Evil 7 was so scary that the Japanese market considered it to be too scary, costing it some sales. Now, it's scary if the Japanese market, marked it as too scary. However, this new game and new style in the series was a complete hit, both with the lifelong fans of the series as well as with newcomers. It was without a doubt one of the best AAA games in the survival horror genre. Resident Evil Village had the advantage of having the proof of concept already available with the previous game, and it moved even beyond what was already new in Resident Evil 7. In many ways, it's natural evolution coming from Resident Evil 7, but it also went for a new path, unexplored by the series and pretty unique. So, what's up with Resident Evil Village and why is it such a big deal? Resident Evil Village has an incredible story which actually takes place right after 7, with some amazing and unexpected developments. It is very important for the game experience that the player gets to fully experience the twists and events. So to keep the experience as clear as we can, we're going to keep this spoiler-free as possible. So a little warning, there might be some spoilers, but we're going to try our best to avoid those. It can be a bit confusing and really tangled up to explain anyways, so it's alright. Resident Evil Village, setting a dark place. Starting off, it's a direct sequel to Resident Evil 7. This is not a usual thing in this series, so right off the bat, it's already unusual. 3 years after the events of Resident Evil 7 Biohazard in Dulvey, Louisiana, nightmares are far from over for the Winters family. It all starts with the Village of Shadows, the title of folk story Maya Winters read to her daughter, Rose, before getting her into bed. But it's much more than just a tale. It is the perfect representation of the setting of the entire game. It takes us to Romania, into a small town near the Dumitrescu Castle in the Caprithin Mountains. This dark and cold environment is just the kind of place that gives birth to all dark folk tales that cover all the town. Vampires, witches, and werewolves are just some of the creatures that lurk in the shadows here. And even though these creatures aren't like zombies and biological weapons created by evil Umbrella Corporation, they are just as scary, if not more. In Resident Evil Village, the town itself is much more than just one setting like we are used to seeing in most of the recent games in the series. Every level of the game takes place around the town and it becomes just one big map. The town is pretty much alive and it does feel like nearly the protagonist in the game. Resident Evil Village is not what you would call a sandbox, but there are elements of an open world, free exploration, and unlockable areas as we advance in the game. The entire town environment advances with us. Since we get items and tools to unlock the areas as we progress, the main town becomes some sort of hub for the entire exploration. This hub of some sort also introduces one of the new and interesting elements, backtracking, which I know realistically that's something that we have in real life, but video game wise, this is something that you actually don't see too often, especially for a Resident Evil game. Since you can now go back to previous areas explored, there are new things to find out. Secret areas, new enemies, and townspeople that you'll get to meet. The town is under the control of 4 evil hierarchs: Lady Dimitrescu, Moreau, Donna Benevito, and Heisenberg. One of my favorite characters personally. And all of them at the same time are under the control of Mother Miranda. One incredible element of the setting and environment in Resident Evil Village is the first-person view. It really helps in getting the player an immersed experience. Even though Ethan Winters is the main character and has his own development and excellent story, it is also a way to get us, the gamers, inside of the village completely. In Resident Evil Village, the nightmare where Ethan loses his wife, his daughter, is only the beginning. And now he's going into the Dark Village to save his daughter, facing all the darkness and mysteries it hides. I personally really do recommend this game. It's fantastic. Resident Evil Village, bone-chilling experience. We previously mentioned that Japanese fans of the series complained that the previous game was too scary for them, and this kind of balanced it out for Resident Evil Village, adding much more action to the formula. This doesn't mean it's like the Chris Redfield campaign of Resident Evil 6, where the action is the main focus, but it is a much more balanced experience. The dark environment feels a lot like a horror movie, mixed with the visualizing, dark lore, and folk story. It also helps in that feeling that you're in like a horror folk story, and that there's vampires, witches, werewolves, and many different crazy monsters around. The art is simply stunning, with amazing visuals and incredible level design. It is completely out of this world and is more than enough to make Tim Burton jealous. Honestly, I would love to see all these in the Resident Evil movies because they're so good, they are terrifying, and I can agree, Tim Burton it's up there. But not only that, but it can also deliver some truly horrifying moments, a little resentment of a good old Silent Hill game. Speaking of, I would love to see more Silent Hill games. They're fantastic, and this game might as well be close to it. Since there's backtracking in Resident Evil Village, you can see how some of the areas of the game change as time passes. This isn't an incredible level of attention to detail, but it's an amazing touch to add to the experience of even more immersion. The music and sound design are honestly some of the most incredible I've ever heard in a Resident Evil game. It really helps set the setting for the game. The thrilling sounds, the horror music, the creepy noises, everything that can make your bones cold is definitely here, and this adapts the more you progress in the game. The bad part about that is, even though there's much more exploration than ever before in the series, the places you can explore are a bit more linear. This could, however, come in handy when you're trying to quickly go back to a place without getting lost or distracted on the way there. So finally, our review, Resident Evil review 8.6 out of 10. Resident Evil did the best it could to connecting the points between the classic idea of survival horror and the modern Resident Evil titles. And even though there are plenty of issues, it is still a great game. Far from being the best survival horror game, it is probably the best looking one. However, the story falls a bit short at some points, and where the game ends up losing most points is one of the most important parts: the gameplay. Non-satisfactory puzzles, bad enemy AI, and mostly non-challenging experience that makes the game fairly easy. Now, there are game settings to up your difficulty to do make it more difficult, but this is just what we've collected around time. It is pretty simple, and it leans more towards the action part than horror, making it feel out of touch with itself. If you're into dark fantasy, you'll love this game, like I do. But it's not for everybody. And with about almost 10 hours of story, it is pretty short as well, making speedrunners crazy low. The highest speedrun I've seen on this game, I believe, is 1 hour and 25 minutes. Overall, the game is a beautiful piece of eye candy, but it falls short in every other place. Lucy, where it's bad, it's just okay. But where it's good, it is great. So it's an unforgettable and enjoyable experience. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dakota with SHOPAHS, and I hope you liked the video. If you liked the video, hit the like button. So you would definitely do subscribe. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you played this game already? Have you seen gameplay on it? Just let us know your thoughts. Remember, let's try to avoid spoilers here, and I'll see you next time. Bye.